Welcome back to Give Me Some Truth. Today we're going to do a little something different. We're going to do a little bit of an Ask Me Anything. That's an AMA for the kids there. Mm-hmm.
And should be you. A.U.A.
Ask you anything?
Us.
I guess. Okay. Right. So we're going to do an AUA. We've crowdsourced some of these questions here. I don't believe that Nate's seen any of them, actually. I had to put them together and cut them out a little bit, so I saw a couple of them, but I haven't, I don't have any prepared answers as well.
They're physically in front of us right here.
There is it. We're going to pick them and just do it.
Here we go.
All right. So AUA, Nate and Clint.
A.U.A.
Here we go. All right. First one.
And you have a head cold too, right?
A little bit of one. Yeah.
We should disclose that because, when people are like, why does he sound like that?
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah. And Mitch did like the last podcast too. And so I feel like we're just bringing colds into the podcast room. It's okay. I got it from my daughter, who's just a festering pile of stuff in the,
That's little kids, man.
Oh, man.
It's little kids.
I'm like, just stop talking to your friends.
Right.
Yeah.
And touching everything.
Yes, touching everything. Right. Stop.
Here we go.
Question number 1. Oh, I already like this one already. Nate, why do you hate jeans so much for office attire?
It's a good question. It's actually a really good question. Well, part of it is because of, should I get real philosophical?
Yes,
like go
please do.
real into the couch of the psychologist. No, like growing up like that, we just like kind of like that. There was kind of like a category of like, here were like your just kind of casual clothes. And then here was like, this category of clothes. And so like, and never should, the two cross. And so that's kind of where, if I'm getting philosophical, that's where like, kind of reaching back into my childhood, that's where that comes from. More currently, it's probably just because I still kind of feel that idea of like, this is casual, this is this. But if you do jeans correctly, then I'm fine with it being like more of an upscale look.
Yeah.
But you have to do it right though.
Well, Sil has like a brand in our office. Like Sil wears like jeans every day, but he's got his Levi's belt buckle, because he likes that classic stuff. He's French, so I think that's kind of like true American. He wears a white shirt and usually a coat with that.
But see, he does it right. Because if his brand was ripped jeans and, a white t-shirt, we'd be like, not as good, right? So it's not just about brand. You have to still do it right.
Yeah, this has been a big thing for the office because apparently, I don't know why it's such a big deal for people to like be allowed to wear jeans. And we've allowed it. I feel like we've been pretty good with that sort of thing, but we always are like, hey,
See, but part of it though is you and I don't put a lot of value on like the enjoyment of wearing jeans, and other people do.
It's just way overrated. They're not that comfortable. Like, it's fine. I have pants that are way more comfortable than jeans. The pants that I'm currently wearing right now, way more comfortable than any jeans.
Sure.
Like, they're stretchy, they're nice, they fit well. I mean, jeans are just jeans, whatever. They're fine.
All right. So there you go. That's the answer. Take it or leave it. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's the answer to the question.
All right.
So here we go.
Your turn.
I got to pick one now. Hold on.
Yeah.
Move my mic here. Nope, I'm taking this one. All right, let's see what this says. What's something that you consider to be an overrated investment?
Ooh.
We should clarify overrated. We should define what we mean by overrated.
Okay.
Or in this
You're
context.
asking the question, so what's
all right, right. In this context, I will define overrated as saying the hype is more than what's owed to that investment, to that style of investing, that specific investment itself. It's garnering more than it should on its own merits. How about that?
Okay. I have two answers to this because you talk about hype. So I would say like there are periods of time when gold is just like in favor. You see like you got to go to the gold store to buy your own physical gold and all that stuff. Buy gold
at Costco now.
I think that's pretty cool actually. I'm a big fan of that. I don't know why, but just being able to go to Costco and buying gold, I think is super cool. But
there's a catch to it as well, because you can also buy a barrel of bourbon at Costco at given times. So, I mean, who does that?
Very true.
So
very true. And then the thing that I would like to say just in general, your primary residence, like people say, oh, one of the best investments that I ever made was my primary residence. And you're like, not really though, because if you actually amortized, all of the different, if you ran the calculation and said year by year, okay, you bought it at this amount and then it's worth this amount. First of all, if you actually run that rate of return, it's usually not that good. And secondarily, if you're in a great spot or you're on the coast, then maybe that might be an exception to that. But also, you got to put a ton of money into your house. If you actually added up all the different receipts and all of the different, okay, we put on new countertops and we, refurbished this room. We did that. I mean, it's actually a pretty terrible investment, net rate of return, I would imagine, for the vast majority of people.
Because it depends on how far you want to go with that, down that path, right? Because you could even get into that equation, the cost of the gas you put in your lawnmower because you have to mow the lawn, right? Like all of the things that you have to do to it to keep it, socially acceptable, if you will, right? You can't just let your yard go to be 2 feet tall, or you can't just let the snow pile up for the entire winter. So all these things you have to do to it also add cost.
Well, some people, the no mow May thing just drives me crazy. But anyways, yeah.
Well, maybe that'll be a question.
Yeah, we'll see here.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
When deciding the name of the firm, how did Walkner come before Condon?
It's interesting because that seems to be intriguing for a lot of people, that question.
Yeah, it's really not really that
right
an answer.
Early on in the firm, we got hit with the whole WC because that in Europe is used for water closet, which apparently means bathroom.
Yes.
So we got hit with that.
So people were talking about WC,
Right.
like that, oh, you might not want to do that. And it's like, well, guess what? Our firm is not in Europe.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly.
That was before we started an expat version.
Right, exactly.
And now we kind of, we actually use the alternative logo a little bit more with the European crowd for that reason.
The WC comes from, Walkner Condon comes from, you were just a little bit more established in the career than I was because of our career paths when we started.
That was
I think that's pretty much was it, right? I mean, I think
I think
it just, I don't know, it sounded better. Maybe I think that it sounds better because I've heard it so many times, but it just seems to sound better. I don't really know why.
Yeah. And a lot of people like to say Walkner and Condon for some reason.
Yeah. There's ands, there's people that want to put hyphens in. There's people that put a space. Some people don't put a space. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's fine. Right.
The one that I saw the other day that I thought was interesting is that it was some retirement whatever name. It was like, that everybody has American Retirement Systems or something like that. It was some sort of financial services company that was supposed to be a financial advisor, and they always put LLC after it. I'm like, you don't really have to do that.
Right.
What's so special about the LLC?
Right. Well, we've always talked about, we enjoy the idea of like, if you name a business like something enterprises, like you're going to get audited. Like there's no question you're getting audited. Like that, what is that? Like that just sounds shady just in and of itself.
I think Courtney and I came up with my favorite company name of all time. And it's Man Bear Pig Industries Incorporated. That's what our company is.
See, for those that get it, like it's funny, but there's a lot of people. I mean, you have to watch South Park for that to make sense. Yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't.
It's your fault if you don't.
It's your fault if you don't. What's the best and worst investment you ever made?
Ooh.
Oh boy. Interesting. Let's see if he answers this honestly or not.
I mean, it's going to be a little contrarian, but I would say the best investment I've ever made has been Walkner Condon.
Sure. Okay.
You have to take a leap, and
sure.
There's a lot of risk involved in that.
Right.
I can remember you and I laying out pieces of paper on the concrete, walking around with your dad at the First Monroe Street place after we had signed a 5-year lease
of how we were going to build the walls and what was going to go where and all that stuff.
And we're like, guess what? We just put personal guarantees in line for all this stuff. So that, I would say that's definitely the best investment that I've ever made. Worst investment I ever made. Oh man. As COVID was going on, it was almost best investment I ever made too, because, COVID, all the meme stocks, we were having a great time. Mm-hmm. I was having a great time trading stocks at that time, sitting in my office, home office and everything like that. We couldn't even go into work. So, I was trading stocks. We're all having a great time. And then after that though, is that, I decided that I wanted to start trading options. And, That was an unsuccessful foray into options for me. I was very
That's
good
not
in
true.
the beginning.
You paid a lot of money for a life lesson,
It's true.
for education.
Definitely
That's what you
worst
did.
investments I've ever made.
Sure.
And you know what it gives you sometimes? Tax loss carry forwards. So
And perspective.
all right. What is your go-to karaoke song? You have to choose one.
Oh man, I think that I've honestly only ever done karaoke one time. My duo with Michael doesn't count because he was doing it. I was, I was the backup singer on that one. And I think the only time I ever did it was Piano Man by Billy Joel.
That's a pretty long song.
Yeah, but it's one of those two. You get two benefits from that song. One is that it's not hard to sing it because it's almost just kind of like talking. You know what I mean? There's no, you're not doing range and whatnot to it, right? And second of all, most people will sing along with it, so
helpful.
you kind of get the benefit of that. I'm not a big karaoke guy.
No, I'm not either. Not much of one.
Shockingly, Polly in our office, huge fan.
Yes.
Huge fan.
Yes.
Which is interesting. I never really, I wouldn't have pegged that.
I've never heard her sing either. So
That's true. That is a very good point.
yeah,
That's a very good point.
I don't know.
Yeah. All right, here we go. What does this say? What's one thing that young people have totally wrong? We should define young people being what?
You're asking the question, so yeah.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I guess so. Let's do young people as being
I kind of think of your daughter's age. Like,
sure, yeah,
Yeah, right.
early 20s. I would say early 20s and younger, but you can't get too young because then it's like, well, you're not talking about a 10-year-old.
Right,
exactly.
exactly.
So kind of that like adult, but yet kind of newly
Young adult.
minted adult. How's
okay.
that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that building wealth happens quickly. I think that
You're saying they have that wrong.
They have that wrong. They
Sure.
think that building wealth happens like kind of overnight. And in some cases it can be that way, but the whole influencer culture, I think, makes people think that wealth just appears, and
Yeah.
wealth gets built over a long period of time. I think they have that way wrong. And the other thing that they have way wrong is that for some reason, I just saw an article on this yesterday that they are wearing, like, all these young people are now wearing like pajama pants everywhere. And we talk about dressing down and stuff
Right.
like that. Like, it's gone too far. And also and I guess the third thing that I would say would be that work from home is super beneficial for your career. I just don't see that. The whole work from home thing for a lot of industries, I think, is extremely detrimental to your career, because the in-person mentorship that you have to have with somebody sitting across from you and building those relationships with others and communication, I think it's super important to be in an office setting in most jobs.
Yeah. So we'll clarify that. Like, you can make an argument that in certain situations you can do equal amount of quality work from home as you can at an office, right?
That's fair.
Okay, that might be fair. But to your point, you lose the dynamic of interpersonal relationships. There is a psychological advantage that people get from seeing somebody else versus not seeing them. There is, and right, whether that's right or wrong is, I guess, up for debate, but that is a provable fact. I know that there was a Harvard professor that did some studies on that and showed that it's more, you're much more likely to be promoted and to have your career elevated if you're in person versus not.
That is true. Yeah, there are studies that say it.
Yeah. That's a long question.
I know. Let's see here. What are 1 to 3 things? Okay, let's just go. What's one thing that clients are always worried about and shouldn't be? And then one thing that clients aren't worried about but should be.
Okay. What's the one thing that clients are worried about that they shouldn't be? The first thing that pops into my head is the short-term movements in the market. I think that's, something happened this week, something happened this month, something even happened this year, right? We're all running a marathon. So something that happens in a given mile on the marathon, probably is not going to have a huge impact on your overall performance. So I think it's easy to kind of fall into the traps of headlines and just the event of that year, whether it be geopolitical or election based or whatever it might be. So that to me is one thing that I think people maybe put a little bit too much emphasis on, and not look at things like 3 or 5 year, 10-year averages and understanding kind of how those actually affect your overall performance. What's one thing that they're not worried about that they should be? I think it's little things. I think it's the concept that, my father used to say, watch your pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. Like the little impact things that you can do that have a cumulative effect over time, and kind of being short-sighted on those like little things that you can do, increasing your contributions by $50 every month, or, when you get a raise, taking a portion of that and putting it somewhere. I mean, just these little things that you can do, paying off debt a little bit faster, is the compound effect of that is just massive. It's just massive over a life.
I would agree with you. Also, I think estate planning as well. I mean,
I would agree with that. I'm thinking both at the same time. Oop. I know who this is from. All right, I'll give credit. This is from my daughter. If Nate and I, so this is you writing this, if Nate and I knew each other at 10 years old, what would we think of each other?
I love this question by the I mean, I don't know if you grew up in the same kind of thing. I mean, I picture, I was in my backyard. We had almost an acre of land. We had all kinds of pine trees in the backyard. But there was a big section
Tamarack
that had
Trail.
nothing. This was Menominee Avenue.
Oh, this was Menominee Avenue. This was not Tamarack Trail.
Not Tamarack Trail. And we used to play. We had a basketball court in the back, and we had my dad built like a pitcher's mound on it out of plywood, and we had a net, and we used to just hum baseballs at each other like all day long. We would just throw and hit, and we'd play with rag balls because we couldn't play with hard balls once we got a little bit bigger. And I just pictured that you and I would probably do that. Like, you're an athlete, you enjoy doing that sort of stuff. So I mean,
we played a lot of backyard football.
Yeah,
it was a lot of that. I was way more competitive than I should have been for backyard football. Shocking. It was pretty normal in that way. We had a park across the street from our house, so that kind of facilitated all number of shenanigans.
And you didn't play, like, there wasn't flag football or two-hand touch when we were playing. It was tackle football in the backyard.
You were hitting people hard.
Yeah, we were laying people out.
There were definitely times where, like, you'd come up from the ground and you'd be like, you kind of like feel a little woozy. You're like, yeah, for sure.
Like Josh Allen this weekend when they gave him smelling salts and never took him out for getting a concussion.
They took him out for one play.
That's big. Lord. That's real big.
Oh, wait, it's your turn.
Yeah, it's my turn.
It's your turn.
What's one life lesson you learned from your parents that you'd like to share?
That is a very, very good question. I would say the value of hard work. Yeah, I would say that just the idea that in most cases, like, you will get farther outworking somebody than trying to be smarter than them. I think you can make up a lot of ground just through effort and, perseverance, that kind of thing.
Just day in and day out. Jim Harbaughing it.
Yeah. Jim Harbaughing it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's, for sure. For sure. What about you?
I think very similarly, like, I just remember just a lot of long hours.
Sure.
But always having like long hours, but always having the time to be able to dedicate to your children as well. I just remember, my mom was a school teacher. My dad, worked for, he was a criminal investigator for the Treasury Department. And so he had some cases that would take him, 80, 90 hours a week, but he always coached soccer. So being able to, be able to do that, we always had, dinner was always made by my mom, just being intentional on those little areas of doing that, but then also working really hard and dedicating yourself to your craft. I mean, he didn't earn any extra money by working those extra hours. He just did. That was part of the job. So there was no like, hey, I got my hand out or anything like that. And I guess I also learned from my dad. He always detested management. So I guess that's why I partially own a financial advisory firm, because I have a hard time with authority sometimes. So, people are always like, are you guys going to sell out to somebody else? I'm like, and I'd have to answer to somebody. I mean, answering to the other partner group is more than enough for me right now. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I would want somebody top downing me.
Look, this is perfect. We just hit 20 minutes, which is what we were told was our allotted amount of time by the powers in the room.
That's true.
Okay. And you have one question left. So let's rock and roll. I had a duplicate. This is a duplicate. So
what's one thing that you learned about yourself that came from your wife?
Wow. That's an interesting question. I think one thing that I learned about myself that came from my wife, I think it's just being intentional on just how you live your life. Okay. So intentional from the standpoint of like just being mindful of, little things like what you put into your body and how you treat your body and are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting quality sleep? Right. So these things that I think when you run fast, you just take for granted and you don't kind of think about them. And I think that in our society, unfortunately, like in a weird way, people are like kind of surprised when you see somebody, have a heart attack at a really early age or something like that. And you're like, right. But did we look at like how this person was actually like treating their body and is it that shocking, I guess, if knowing how a lot of Americans do what we do?
Yeah, I think you have the juxtaposition of two different things. Number one, some people take too many rest days. They don't actually get started or do anything or take the steps to make themselves better day by day. Other people never take any rest days, and that's a problem because then they're going too fast, like you said. And a rest day, it means like, whether you take a pause and make sure that you're putting what's in your body well, or you're going and working on a consistent basis, but taking those days off too.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why I choose the word intentional specifically is because I think that it has to come from a level or a desire of like you want the outcome that this thing will give you, right? It's not just you didn't just do it by happenstance. It was there was purpose behind it, and I think that's. I don't know that we necessarily think about that as much as we should on things that aren't like right in front of us, like our career or, that kind of thing. I think it's the other little things that we don't take time for, and we probably should. So there you go.
Yeah. Do you think that now that Courtney's looking at me, she wants an answer from me on that question?
I guess she'll have to wait till the next podcast.
Ooh, I like that.
You can either take my free out, get out of jail card, or you can answer the question.
No, I'll answer the question quickly. I think just being, not being scared of conflict, because conflict, whether it happens in business or in life or whatever, you have to embrace the fact that it's not always going to be perfect. And, you might disagree on something and you need to work it out. So there's two different things, not being afraid of having that occur because it's a natural thing that happens and you want to do it constructively. And then and we don't have conflict a lot, but when we do, what I want to do is immediately fix it too, because I'm a fixer. So I want to fix it in the moment.
Sure.
And Courtney does not want to fix it in the moment.
Sure.
In fact, me like grinding it out right in front of her is like, that's the exact opposite of what she wants. She wants, time to be able to contemplate and think about it. And I think, when you start getting friction, you want to be able to step away from something and take some time. And so I think there is some benefit to that in being able to sit down and consider, your actions and everything that has occurred to, have this conflict bubble up and then be able to take it and spend some time by yourself to do that. And not everybody works the same. So I think those are things that are really healthy when you understand each other that way, that somebody doesn't work the exact way that you do. So,
right.
So great. Well, this is, I think, a great episode of Give Me Some Truth. We'll do another Ask Me Anything or Ask Us Anything.
Ask Us Anything.
And, we'll crowdsource some more questions and see what we can come up with. But if you have any questions that you want us to do, email us or drop something in the comments. We'll address it on a future podcast, and we'll see you again on another episode of Give Me Some Truth.
Walkner Condon Financial Advisors is a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Registration with the SEC does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The opinions expressed by the participants of this podcast are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Walkner Condon Financial Advisors. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. Thanks for listening, and for further information, please visit WalknerCondon.com.